You gave a treasurer's report, but I don't know if I missed it, that there would be an audit somewhere along the line.
Yes, there, I did not give that report, so my apologies. But, yes, we are hoping and we are intending to have an audit in this year. I know some people have talked about going back 3 years. We hope to do that financially. If we get the support and the revenue we're anticipating, we'll be able to at least do this 1 year. And then with a plan to, when we have more resources, to do prior years. And then we're all in agreement on the board that that's what we want to do.
And the other questions are kind of related. I've heard Angela talk about the process of going to city council for the appointments. But you also mentioned that there will be there are some resignations, and you've asked for a resignation. And I didn't hear when that's effective. You only have 4 board members now.
No, we have 6 board members.
Well, you asked one of them on that phone to resign, right?
Yeah, but that hasn't
So
happened.
what's the date of those resignations?
The resignation of Dan Connor was, what was the date? The 9th, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll confirm the date, but that's effective already. It was the 9th.
Right,
Joe Mead, that was last month.
right.
We have asked for the resignation of Ingrid. We have not received a response.
So if she
there's
never responds, you don't have to?
No, the board can act,
Okay.
and we can follow up. It's a process.
And then my final question is,
Say that again? What's incorrect?
Response was given.
Oh, I can see it.
what?
Well, no, I'm sorry. Yes, a response was given. And correct me if I'm wrong, the response was given, but not to that specific question. So Ingrid did respond, but she has not resigned as of yet.
So the board's gonna do what about that?
We have given her the opportunity to give us a response, which she said she'll do shortly.
Then my final question is, you mentioned that there's gonna be this process for the nomination. And I'm a little confused because you mentioned you're gonna have a board meeting, and then you're gonna have an open public meeting.
That's the same meeting.
It's the same meeting?
Yeah, it's the same meeting.
So the public meeting is just to watch you vote, or are you gonna allow the community to vote?
No, the community does not vote. The board will vote on the slate. It has to be a public process. So in other words, we can't just vote without being in a public process.
So,
So 5 people are gonna decide who goes on the board.
So, it is the board's responsibility to nominate candidates. It is the board's responsibility to draft a list of candidates to be submitted to the council office for approval by city council. For transparency and inclusive purposes, the board went out of its way to include members of the community in the candidate solicitation and review process before the final list is sent to the council office, okay? So as the chair mentioned earlier, one of the committee members jumped the gun and published information that wasn't supposed to be published. The board has not yet had an opportunity to review the list of candidates.
They're here
that
on the
were
list,
submitted.
here. They're right here.
Right.
What do you mean
Let
now?
me finish. So the board has not yet had an opportunity to review and discuss the list of candidates submitted by the committee, okay? So we're going to have a call within the next 2 weeks, and then we're scheduling a special board meeting for Saturday, March 30th, so that we can have a public process.
And what's the call in 2 weeks?
Well, that's an internal executive session call, okay? So listen, the board has the authority to discuss personnel and board matters in private, When it comes
Is that in
to,
the ordinance?
yes, it is, ma'am. It's in the Municipality Authorities Act. It's also in the PA Sunshine Law, okay? So when the board actually makes a decision, that's the part that has to be public. That's the part that the public has the ability to have a registered comment on, okay? And so that's why we're having a special meeting, so that when the board takes action, which has to be in front of the public, it's going to do that at that special meeting.
But
The
these
board doesn't
5
have
members
enough-
will vote on who becomes the.
It's their responsibility. It's
Where?
actually 6 board members currently active, and it is their responsibility to make the determination of the list of candidates to be submitted to the 8th District Council office, to then go to the full council. Any part of that not clear?
Yeah. Nah. That's
So-
okay. I won't dominate you more.
We can talk after, if something still doesn't make sense.
No, I'm just concerned about community-driven process. where you-
So
you've
there are
never had
limits
this
to
kind of-
community, we're
We've never
not,
had this kind of participation on the GSSD process. And so it's important to continue to encourage it.
we are.
And-
Yeah, it's a municipal.
But this private business is
What's the
discouraging.
private, can you, what's the private business?
You said it shouldn't have been public notice that who was nominated, and I urged that it be public. And secondly, you're saying that it'll be an internal discussion and not an
Well,
open
we
discussion.
have board executive sessions all the time.
Mhm.
We can call one, we have one.
Well, I know you have the right to do it. I'm
Yes,
merely
but,
urging you to do all of this transparently and with the community involved.
We are, man.
yeah, I
That's why
really,
you-
Okay.
yeah, I'm not really liking the fact that you're giving the impression that this isn't transparent. Because it is transparent. I want to be careful about that language. Let's just please be careful here, because this is not fair. We're following the process that we're supposed to follow. The only difference is that we're stating that tonight, which we would have had that slate available and we would have voted, and we have said as a board, we need more time. So what we did was we picked a meeting date that we thought would afford the opportunity for a lot of people to attend, which is a Saturday morning, to say, we just need time. We need time to come together as a board to discuss this a little bit more prior to making a recommendation to the council person, which would then go on to the vote. So there's nothing here that's not transparent. We're following the law, we're following the Municipal Authorities Act, and we've added a special meeting. We're giving ample notice about the special meeting. You have to give 24 hours notice. We're giving 2 weeks notice. We're gonna post it in the newspaper as well. And everyone is available to come. Yeah, what are you saying that I'm not hearing?
Executive session, yeah, that's
Can I try?
nice.
I think what the lady's saying is she understands that you have the right to be following the process that you are. It's in the ordinance. She's wishing that there were an amendment to the process to engage the public earlier, including the selection of the candidates.
Yeah, we've engaged the public by having for the past 2 months an advisory committee comprised of, 8 people from the community. And most of them are here, they can attest to the transparency. They can attest to the fact that they were active participants. And we asked public, even those who aren't or weren't on the committee, we asked them to submit names. Many people did. We also reached out to our own contacts and asked people to submit names. In the end, I think there were about 14 or so names that were brought. I was at least 2 of those advisory committee meetings. And again, I say advisory committee, which is not part of the normal process. So we added another layer of transparency, inclusion, to get people to participate. There was a whole other layer that wasn't necessary.
The only problem was that you said you're gonna have executive session, and that was where I got confused, because I thought this was gonna be done, I thought it was gonna be done tonight.
No, we're
As far as
asking,
your
we're
recommendations.
stating.
But
that,
now you're
you
saying
know,
there's gonna be an executive session to make the decision,
there's always an executive session prior to any meeting. So it's an executive
to
session.
make the decision.
But, no,
To
what,
have a
make what
discussion.
decision? We're having a discussion. We're coming on the 30th to have a meeting to present that slate.
So will there be a vote on the 30th?
The vote will take place on the 30th at the special public meeting that is being held for the express purpose of approving the list of candidates for the board. Period.
Okay, now we're gonna go in order with the questions. The gentleman, I'm sorry to point, he had his hand up.
Stacy.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just curious, I have served on a few boards, I served on the board, and normally when folks resign or if we're looking for new board members, we kind of have a scale or a determination or an idea of the type of candidates that we're looking for. So I was just curious, you definitely have the choice of choosing and voting, so no problem with that, but what is your gauge, your scale, how are you determining, what is your process in choosing folks? I mean, I myself did apply, 40 years resident, I work here, very involved, so I'm just curious if somebody was really looking to try to affect some change, how are you going about making those decisions? I was just curious.
So we looked at, yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
the committee looked at kind of a regional representation of the district, north, south, east, west, major points along the main drag of the commercial corridor. We looked at governance experience, board governance experience, administrative operations. What type of business do you own? We looked at accounting and finance experience. We also considered folks with fundraising and or a development background, corporate development experience. We also looked at the stakeholder institutions. You know, we've got the big GFS and Green Street, we've got Mastery, we've got anywhere from 5 to 10 churches, like 4 churches on Rittenhouse Street alone. So we looked at all of those factors to figure out the best combination of experience as well as context. For example, our meetings have been more highly attended, so perhaps a partner like a historic Germantown or a Pennsylvania School for the Deaf that has a public meeting space, maybe they would be a great candidate because you know, they have something that can potentially help the organization in the long term. Whether it's, it could be, again, governance, it could be fundraising, it could be what kind of space available do you have, what do you bring of value. On the application, we asked candidates to explain why they wanted to be on the board and what they have to bring as well. The advisory committee met 3 times. Our last meeting ran for 3.5 hours, so there are a lot of thought and deliberation went into it. And we did have 14 applications that were ultimately submitted, and the committee put forward 10 of them for consideration.
And I do want to add, thank you, Jamar, one last thing. We, being a board member and in an interim capacity as the president, I couldn't make the meeting where names were deliberated, but one of the things that we did ask for were people who would be available and able to work. As many people have been on boards and are on boards now, sometimes, you know, it might just be a handful and it gets to be a little tiresome. So we had asked that. We know that some people have, you know, different roles in the community and quite busy, but that they're also able to be present and to be able to do the work that's required for the board. But again, it's 2 weeks off. We just asked for 2 weeks just to give us time to just kind of go through things responsibly and to be able to make those recommendations.
And the applicants have to have.
Yeah, this was excuse me, Ms. Littlejohn, she was one of the advisory committee members. You can speak up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it wasn't only that you had to apply, you also had to be able to pass a tax clearance as well. That is part of the process. So that was, you know, could be a very daunting process for some folks because maybe they couldn't get a tax clearance.
Thank you. I forgot, I didn't mention it. Okay. We're working this way. Yes.
So did you find the financial records and the bank statements for the last 3 years?
Yes, we contacted the accountant, well, actually, we worked with Ingrid and contacted the accountant. There were financial reviews held, so bank statements were sent to the, is it McGovern? McGovern, and we were able to get those copies.
So you do have all of those records now?
We have, I think it was for the last, it might have been 3 years. I think it was for 3 years. At least 2. I need to confirm. I know that we were copied on the email and it was forwarded to us.
So who had the records?
We got that information from the accounting firm that have done the financial review for the organizations every year.
Well, so I guess now that you have those records, without paying for an official audit, I mean, couldn't we just evaluate what happened for the last 3 years?
We have an accountant that you met her at one of the meetings, and right now our priority is just because we're trying to get the organization cash positive, and we want to also do the audit for this year. At some point, that could be something that we have her look into. Our accounting is $65 an hour, so we're really prioritizing getting the books in order. We're prioritizing having the financial reports. And that's something, again, that we really want to do. And it is a cost associated with it. We do have the documents now. As I stated earlier to the question Ms. Haskins had, was about the trying to get through this year's audit. I hope I answered your question. It's a matter of resources.
Well,
So
I
we
just
have
meant that it's possible to evaluate that and see how monies were spent without having an official audit. And
Yes.
possibly without paying $65 an hour, just by looking at the records.
Yeah, well, I'm not a forensic accountant, and that's not something I would be able to do. I would rather rely on an accountant, and she's going to be reviewing that as well. So besides that, I don't know how else to answer that. Allison?
What is the role of the consultant and how many hours does that constitute a month, a week, a year?
We're working that out. It's much less
Can I
hours.
ask you to clarify when you say a consultant, which one are you talking about?
She's speaking about me.
Oh,
You're speaking about Jamar? Yeah.
okay, you didn't say, that's why I'm.
How many
Oh, I didn't know you had
consultants?
more than one consultant. How
Yeah,
many
we do.
consultants you have? Okay, how
The
many?
accountant is a consultant. We
Okay.
also hired Lee Herman to do the collections.
Are they consultants or are they?
Yeah, they're consultants.
Well, they're non-paid.
They're not, they're not staff, so what else could they be? They're a professional.
Professionals.
consultant. Right.
So, we're working that out. It's much less than, is happening now, but we are working out the details.
So you're saying it's a volunteer position?
No, it's not a volunteer. He's a consultant, we're paying him.
And the accountant is the volunteer or paid?
It's paid.
You just said the accountant was
No,
$65
I
an hour.
I know, I'm getting confused by your
What's gonna be? She said the
When I
accountant is
talked
paid
about
$65
consultant-
per hour.
thinking that there was only one consultant, then you came up with a list of consultants, and then you said something about they're not being paid, so it was very confusing.
Now, you asked who was the consultant, and I said,
I didn't ask.
which, you said something about a consultant, and I said, which one?
I asked
You asked
the
the
role of the
question.
consultant.
So you're speaking specifically about Jamar?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where it started out, when you said the consultant, and so I
We knew
said,
who
which
she was
one? I'm
talking
taking the
about.
records. Okay,
I'll be staying on to complete the reauthorization process, okay? And get the organization best positioned to succeed, get new staff in, and that's that.
Okay, let me get someone who hasn't gotten a question yet, the gentleman right
As you know, there's many of us here who have been with, or interested or concerned about GSSD from day one. And we all know the history that the place has been through. My question right now is, you have 6 board members?
excuse me, could you?
Jeff Smith,
Okay.
you have 6 board members, one who has said, have said will be retiring, but you haven't said when. So I presume, I have to presume that person's going to be involved in the decision about these next board members. So that's 6. How are you going to break a tie, first of all? If it's 5, then there's all the much more concern from the part of the community that you have 5 people who are determining the composure of, was it 14 members on the board? Like 10 additional people, that's a lot of people. And frankly, I saw the list. I don't feel like I had a problem with the list, not studying it carefully. I mean, I looked at it, I said, oh, they look like pretty good people. But still, I'm concerned that 5 people or 6 are going to make decisions with these positions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Goldie. Wait, does anybody else have a question? Connie, I will come back to you.
Yeah, I have a question.
Thank you.
How many of the present board members are assessed the tax that goes to pay for the GSSD?
Or assess the tax.
Yeah, and how many of
What part
the
of
present board members actually pay in to the GSSD fund?
For the assessment? Currently, not.
2.
So I hope you will take that into consideration when you decide the fate of the next board, because I would think that those that pay into the assessment might have the greatest interest in how the board operates and moves forward.
It's been a significant part of the process and the deliberations.
Okay, in the back.
I'm curious how you define pay the tax.
In other words, the folks that have businesses or buildings on the business district that pay into the GSSD assessment that creates the GSSD, how many of those folks are presently serving on the board of the GSSD? And the answer was 2 of the 5?
Right now.
2 of the 5. And so I was just suggesting that the future board might be made up of more folks that are assessed the taxes that pay for the GSSD to operate, because the GSSD then might have people that were more committed and involved in deciding the fate of how their dollars are spent.
It's noted. In addition to the people who are assessed, there are people on the board who have gone into their own pockets to donate hundreds of dollars, who live in the community and have cleaned the streets and picked up trash and did everything else. So your point is noted, in addition to non-business and nonprofits and also individuals who are also dedicated and are committed to the organization.
But they're not required, they're not assessed.
Any other gentlemen?
How are the 8 members of the advisory committee selected?
They were selected, and can I have your name, please?
Nate Holt.
Nate.
Nate Holt.
Yeah, they were selected, just from some of them represented businesses in the area. I think
Or what I mean is by whom? Who selected?
We did.
The board,
yes.
okay.
Okay. Yes. Yes, Ben.
So the names on the proposed board members, when it says property owner, can we assume that means within the district? Or is it just general property owner?
No, we can assume it's in the district.
Everybody on the list is in the district.
Okay. But they could own a property that wasn't in the special services district
They
and
could,
still
but
be a property
they're
owner.
only being considered because they own one also in the special services.
Okay. Well, and then my other question is, for the institutions don't pay the assessment, am I correct?
No, they don't pay the assessment, they're not taxed to pay the assessment, but some institutions donate. And they do donate
And they
money.
do them.
Yeah,
But the
some-
assessment's based on the property tax, so if you don't pay property tax, then you don't pay the assessment, you don't have to.
No, but some institutions donate significantly above what the property tax is assessed. And it's our hope that most, a good number of them will donate as well.
And we'd also like to build relationships that could hopefully be leveraged for potential nonprofit contributions in the future as an untapped resource in the past. That's why we paid special consideration to them and considering them for the board.
Allison? I wanted to point out something to those people who were saying that the 5 or 6 board members are going to determine the other board members. There are 2 members of the city council staff on the present board that are sitting at this table, in case people aren't aware. And then I wanted to ask about the cleaning. What is the plan for cleaning? Keith said that the 10 weeks was up. What is the plan moving forward? How is it going to be funded? And why do you remain in a $900 a month office?
I'll answer your last question first. We're not going to be remaining in a $900 a month office. This is a discussion that we're having as a board. I think I said in the very beginning of this conversation that we're looking at other arrangements, or when I thanked GSSD, I'm sorry, Historic Germantown. So no, we're not going to remain. We do have lease. Anybody who's aware of lease, you have to give notice on a lease.
Last meeting you told me it was a month to month.
Yeah, well, it's still a month to month, so I have to give 30 days. And we were in arrears. We don't want to leave our landlord without paying our responsibility. So it is something we are taking care of and talking about as a board. And hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a definitive date on that. But, so no, we're not remaining in a $900 a month.
But the longer you stay, the more you have to pay.
I'm well aware. I own property and I have rented. Thank you. The second, what was your other question?
I want to know about the cleaning. The cleaning supposedly was for 10 weeks,
Yes.
which Keith indicated this was the 10th week. What is going to happen moving forward? How is it going to be funded? And what kind of regularity?
The cleaning is going to continue. We have had conversations with Keith, and we're also having conversations with others that will support that. And when we have more information, I'll be able to tell you, but it is going to continue.
Well, when is there, so you're not going to wait for the reauthorization before you make?
No, I'm not waiting. I said we'll have conversation with others, and then I'll be able to give you, but Keith is here. Keith, will the cleaning continue?
Yes, it will be uninterrupted services in Germantown.
Because he was talking about not only cleaning the Germantown Special Services District, he was cleaning other areas.
Could I speak to that?
Sure.
Yeah, because there's if that's going to be our standard, and I'm one of your neighbors, there's no scrutiny about if I'm just a simple man that came out of his house with a broom, for the record. So if you see me clean in front of my house or park or pick up something, it started there. So, but as far as in the district, if there's a way to approach that contract-wise or independent consultant, and if anybody had looked, most of my services is consultation. See, I zeroed out a lot of direct services and hours out here. But as far as moving forward, that's contractual.
No, I think it's wonderful.
And so it'll be uninterrupted, and that's the message out here, that it'll be uninterrupted service.
I think it's wonderful what Keith is doing and what he does for the community. It's wonderful. My concern is how the funds that the GSSD collects and how they spend the funds.
Right.
Noted. Any other questions? Ken?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Ken Weinstein. Couple of questions. One is, I guess the first is a statement. I just want to talk to the integrity of the nominating committee. Firstly, tonight's the first night. It might seem petty, but first night I've seen nominating advisory committee. Until now, we've been called the nominating committee, so a little surprised that it's now an advisory committee as opposed to a group that nominates. But let me speak and reiterate what Jamar said already.
Well, Ken, I want to just counter that.
Yeah, please.
That's the first time you heard that?
Yeah, it is.
It's in the minutes from the last month.
Okay, my apologies. It's the first time I've seen it.
And it's in the, on the website, on the public statement that we made. It's that long one that you go on the website. It says about a nominating advisory committee. We also informed the Commerce Department and others that we had a nominating advisory committee.
Okay, so then my apologies, I'll check that out, but we've been referring to ourselves as nominating committee, and I guess I didn't see it in print then. But I just want to reiterate what Jamar said and others have alluded to on the integrity of the nominating committee. We spent many, many hours. Brenda's here, Henry's here, I don't know if Emily's here, Dan Connor was integral, yourself, and Jamar was at all the meetings. And it was some of the best discussions that I think we've had, or at least I've had in Germantown, very upfront, culminating in the last 3-hour session that was revealing and thought-provoking. And I guess that leads, so I compliment everyone on the committee, and I also compliment the board for appointing a good committee, but that also leads me to, there's no rubber stamps in life, but I'm a little surprised to come to the meeting tonight, and I think we have 10 excellent candidates. We had 14 very good choices, came out with 10 excellent candidates. It shows the quality of people in Germantown by the 10 that we have put forward. So I'm a little surprised that it's now being second guessed, it's being further discussed, it's being looked at. I doubt very much if the board will spend the same amount of time and energy our committee spent on talking about the people and making sure we had the right balance geographically and otherwise. And so just a little surprised because I thought the decision would be, as Yvonne said, would happen tonight, and a little surprised that it's now being thought over again after the committee spent so much time.
Can you select the committee members?
Excuse me?
On the committee, can you select the committee members?
I'm sorry.
Are you involved
Is
in
this a question from Tripita?
Sounds like it, I'm the last.
So I want to, we want to just take questions in an orderly way, but we asked for 2 weeks as a board. Anyone on any board, we want to do our due diligence.
Okay.
It's not, there were application packets submitted. We're asking for 2 weeks to consider and to be able to have this discussion. And this is part of it too. It's not about, what do you think? Boom, boom, boom. I feel I want to be a responsible person as an interim, and I want to be able to sit and talk to individuals and have a dialogue. I do appreciate, and we said that over 100 times. We appreciate the efforts. I was there. I saw it in action. I saw the pushback. I saw a whole lot of stuff. Sir, excuse me. And I saw a lot of dialogue. And as you said, I didn't go to the last one, but from my understanding, it was quite revealing, as you indicated. And we're asking for 2 weeks. I don't understand. If someone is saying to you, we as a board are saying, we're holding a public meeting, we've given you the time, we've given you the date, hopefully the location, and we're asking for 2 weeks to discuss.
So let me, if I could follow.
And we will apply a great amount of effort into that as well. We're making assumptions that we won't. And this is part of it too. We're talking about wanting to be on the board and acknowledging the fact that while we do have a long way to go, there are a lot of people on this board who have worked really hard and continue to work hard. That's always discounted in these discussions. And I want to be clear, we're not going for a new day. We're looking to come together as a community to help improve not only this organization, but there are other organizations in Germantown that I can attest to that need the same level of scrutiny and improvement and support and help. And hopefully we'll start with GSSD and move on to others. But we're asking for 2 weeks just to consider. And as a board of the GSSD, we will come back and be able to you'll be there.
So if I could just follow up,
Sure.
if you would, and I actually have a second question too. Sure. So you're going to have an executive session, and then we'll have the public meeting on March 30th.
Yes.
Will there be time to have comments from the public, questions from the public before the vote on March 30th?
I don't think that that's a problem. It's a public forum.
Okay, great.
Well, we want it to be organized, of course, and, but we'll put a process in place.
So my second question, if I may, I understand the process. I heard the vote on the resolution tonight for the 5-year plan. I understand the public hearing and the date. I've been told for the last couple months that there would be a governance committee before a plan is enacted and then put before property owners. So tonight, I hear a resolution before a governance committee. What changed?
Again, I think the language you're using is not accurate. We stated, and it's also on our website, that by June, we will assemble a governance committee. So nothing has changed. We will do that. I think initially we thought that we had quite an ambitious plan to have the new board up by February, and we knew clearly the committee was still meeting. And then we said March. So that gets us to the 30th of March. We have stated, and I have stated publicly, that we hope to assemble or want to assemble a governance committee by June. And that's stated, that's also on the
So
website.
help me understand that. That's good news, thank you.
Mhm.
But help me understand, if there's a public hearing and then a 45-day objection period, and then the governance committee comes afterwards, what are the property owners voting on? The current plan, or are they waiting for the governance committee to make changes?
The governance committee's main charge was to update the bylaws. We said it was old information. The board members will be integral to that part of updating the bylaws. In terms of the plan, the assessments, what it will be based on the governance committee discussion on what's going to go into the update. The big thing about governance committee is the board practicing good governance. Good governance is having consistent meetings, which we have, executive sessions, which we have. I can name like 5 or 6 other things for good governance. The main point we said was we would update the bylaws. And hopefully with board members coming on board, I think that was the intent, to say we would do it by June, because you will have other board members that can contribute to that and perhaps be able to support.
But wouldn't it make more sense to do the updates first so that property owners know what they're voting on for the next 5 years,
We're not
rather
changing
than
the
make
plan.
changes afterwards?
We're not changing the existing plan as we indicated. We're not expanding the boundaries as we indicated. And I don't think anything at all is changing in the reauthorization. There's nothing that's changing. So it would make sense how, that once we have a new board and we are able to be reauthorized, then we can review it, and hopefully we'll get the property owners' input as well. Question? Ms.
Pamela Bracy. I think what I'm hearing is that there was a nominating, or there is a nominating committee. The nominating committee did an excellent job in
Nominating advisory.
Advisory.
It's not a nominating committee.
that's the problem.
So, but-
So let me, you
I
all,
can't hear her.
let me, if I can say this, then you all can correct me, okay?
Let me hear.
I'm going, do I need to say that?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I think the problem here, you're saying it's a nominating advisory committee. It appears as though individuals, some of us probably thought it was a nominating committee. You had a group of persons who went ahead and looked at the information that came into them for these particular persons. So you have 10 persons whose names are listed as possible candidates. When you say that there's going to be another meeting to discuss this, it sounds as though you are undermining your committee that selected these names. And now are you going to tell us that the same names are going to come back, or are you selecting new persons?
So, if I could clarify, because I sent the meeting invites, it was always a nominations advisory committee.
Yeah, we know that part,
Because-
but could Rafita answer her?
Sure.
We're not undermining maybe that's the perception, we're not undermining the committee, we're not bringing new names. We've asked for 2 weeks only to have a review. And to have not to have a discussion.
So you're
It
saying,
sounds like we're gonna get these questions all night, because obviously people came for a purpose, right? And what I'm saying is, respectfully, we have stated over and over again that we just needed 2 weeks as a board to have this discussion.
but,
We're considering.
Discuss what?
but.
I don't feel like my question was answered.
Okay, well, we addressed your question.
No, you did not. I actually made a statement, but you said it was noted. My question was, when is your board member going to give notice? You said you don't know. And are there going to be 5 or 6 people on this board who are going to be making your evaluations and recommendations on the 30th?
Do you understand how municipal authorities work? We can ask a board member for his or her resignation. And we have done that. The board member said, I will consider, I am getting back to you. This just happened today.
Okay.
Okay? So once that happens, we're able to, whatever the outcome is, then we can do our next move. Okay?
But you said you intend to ask her to resign if she doesn't. What is
She's
your
already
deadline?
been asked to resign.
Okay, so what is your deadline? What is your deadline? Is there a deadline in the legislation? I don't know.
No, we haven't given a deadline. We
But
will get a
is there,
deadline.
can you ask for a deadline in the law that covers your existence?
Yes, we can, and we will.
But you haven't.
I don't have it down, but we will.
So you could vote as a board to get a deadline?
I'm sorry?
You could vote as a board to impose a deadline.
We can.
Will you?
Yes, we can. We're gonna, it's fine.
I have a question about
There's a
this.
gentleman in the back who
Okay.
have a question yet, Ms. Preston? Yeah.
So out of the 10 people that you have listed, what if we don't, after you go over, what if we,
Name?
Bernard Lambert, what if you don't like the 9 or the 8 out of the 10, then how do you go forward from there?
It's not about us liking or not
I mean,
liking.
you know,
We're
I mean,
having a
after you review.
discussion. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. We have a list, and we are gonna be meeting, and then there is a public meeting on the 30th of March at 11 o'clock. Okay, if anybody else hasn't had a question in the back?
I'm just wondering what your public notification methodology is, because, I'm sorry, Sue Patterson, Chair of Penn Knox Neighborhood Association. Our leadership received no notification either of this meeting or of the leadership committee. I had to ask for that information. And we're one of the big RCOs, so it makes me question who do you send out the emails to? I learned from Facebook.
Please sign up on our website to receive alerts.
I did.
The meeting invites.
I did, and I still
I didn't
don't.
get a notice.
The meetings are posted on the website every year in January, whatever month that is. Just so you understand how it works, the meeting notices for the year are posted on the website, and they're voted on by the board, and they're posted on the website.
And that includes this meeting.
Yeah, it's all on there, it's on there.
And
The
what
only
about
meeting
what
that
about
wouldn't be on there is the special meeting. We have to give 24-hour notice. And the way that, according to the Sunshine Law, we have to post it in the local publication. So it could be East Falls Local or something else. It's posted on the website, and we do put it on the social media.
And what about the solicitation for nominees for the board? We didn't receive notice of that either.
That came at the, what was that, the January and February board meetings. We also requested the committee to kind of fan out, so to speak, and solicit interested candidates. We reached out to candidates along the commercial corridor as well.
But you didn't solicit us, and we have an almost 300-person listserv, and that meeting was at 9 a.m. and all of our board people work. So we were effectively shut out of that process without my asking for being included. Just noted for the record.
Well, for the record, in our minutes, and you may not have been able to attend a meeting, we alternate, and we've said this numerous times, because people are not always to attend. Some people can attend mornings, and some people can attend evening meetings. So we alternate. 1 month it's the morning, 1 month it's the evening. We also promised and have stuck to the promise of letting the community know when our meetings are and how we would communicate. And we agreed that we would communicate by posting all meetings on our website. The advisory committee took the responsibility of soliciting applicants to apply. So it's...
I got forwarded an email by Allison, so clearly you let Allison know, but not me.
For the record, I only received notice after I asked in January. I received notice of the nomination process on February 14th, and the deadline was February 18th.
And I got it from her the same afternoon.
Okay, the meetings, again, the nominating advisory committee was an extra step that the GSSD put in place. It's not a step that is required by the municipal authority. It is something that we put in place, Sue, to answer your question about why you weren't commenting or your group weren't asked. And because it was a step that we voluntarily put in, we did reach out to a number of people. It wasn't, and the committee actually fanned out and reached out to other people as well.
But you can understand how that gives the appearance of exclusion.
Okay.
Well, I can understand that with any organization in Germantown that gives a feeling of exclusion.
Okay, can I have?
Yeah, Dennis first, you had a question in the back, and then I'll come back to you.
I yield, because you ran.
Okay, thank you.
Someone else that hadn't asked, I'm sorry.
All the way back.
Hi, my name is Monique Gerald. I'm from Tabor Services Incorporated.
Yes.
I came in about 15 minutes after the start of this meeting, but I did hear that there was a person that was asked to resign from the board. Was there a reason given as to why? I also don't get notification of the meeting, so I just happened to be on one of the Facebook pages, and I saw about it yesterday, so I made it a point of being here today answering.
Okay, I'll touch base with you after the meeting in reference to your first question. And the second, in terms of the meeting, the website, the meetings are listed there. Again, the special meeting I called for, the date is March 30th at 11 a.m., location TBD. Please look on the website and we'll put that there. The only reason why is to be determined is because I have to get confirmation.
No problem. I was just saying because I did sign up for the listserv. I just haven't, the correspondence that I get from GSSD is a little sparse.
Okay, all right, I'll just note it, understood, thank you. Ms. Haskins?
I really, at the last meeting I attended, I think it was January or February, I think January.
I think you came to the January meeting.
January, it was a night meeting. And I said then and I said again, I really want to see the GSSD succeed. And I really want to see the GSSD's leadership respected. And I'm just excited and interested in the fact that people are coming to these meetings and showing you the community's interest.
This was great.
With all of the discussion about the nominations, there is clear that every board I've ever served on, we have a nominating panel, we have nominations that come to the board, and the board votes. Like you just said, that the board votes, but it's all, done at the time that the nominating panel or nominating candidates are provided. I've never been on a board where people nominated were not appointed. And so I'm asking tonight, if you decide against some of these people, well, I have two questions. If you decide to include these people, you mentioned others, the others on the board. Is this the board, or will you, people who are on the board now, continue to serve on the board? I assume you have room to have more than 10 people. So I really would like to know what's going to be the constitution of the board. Will it be just the new people, or will it include the people who exist today? as well.
The municipal
So I have a
authority,
second question too, but go ahead.
the Municipal Authorities Act that we operate under
Yeah,
allows for a maximum of 15 board members.
yeah.
It does not specify how many we have to have, except that it needs to be at least 5, okay?
I see. Okay. So my second question is, if you decide, that was if you decided to accept everybody. If you decide not to accept, since it seems that you're reserving that right, if you decide not to accept what's been recommended to you, would you develop some principles or something that assures this community of your reasons for going against your nominating advisory committee?
Okay.
Would you be willing to accept some principles or to consider some principles? I'd be happy to give you a few right now. But would you be willing to do that so that the integrity is in place, the board has the respect that it deserves, and there's no, you said that whatever I said didn't sound like I respected that you were trying to be inclusive and transparent. And I only said that, what I said was that you're going into an executive session between these meetings about this very important, matter. And you also have 2 staff members on the board, so you only have 5 people who are going to be voting, I assume. So it raises the question is how are you going to make your decision in that private meeting, in that executive session?
Okay.
So when you say staff persons.
Yeah, are they allowed to vote?
Staff people
They
don't
I didn't
vote.
say staff voted.
Oh.
I didn't say that.
You said
Don't
you
put
had 2
words in my
staff on the board.
No, I said you only have 5. You have staff of the council office on the board.
They're
That's
board
not
members.
community.
That they're board members
In
now.
this
I know.
In this capacity, they're board members.
I know they are.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
exactly what I'm saying. Because you have 2 of your members from the community
Mhm.
are actually paid staff members of the city council office, then basically your volunteer group, or you, and whoever the person is on the phone that's not Ingrid Shepherd. So my point here is maintaining the trust. Germantown has a hard time with trust. I have a hard time with people trusting me. So we know how easily we are divided. We can get divided. I want you to be respected, to succeed, to have everything that you do is trustworthy and done. I mean, you volunteered to be interim chair, and that's a lot of work, I'm sure. And we really appreciate the leadership that you provided. I'm really asking now, going forward with this hiccup that people are feeling, how are you going to handle it in that executive session?
I think if we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. We are asking for 2 weeks. I don't consider it a hiccup, but again, if you were coming here under that impression that, hey, we would have this made today and it wasn't, so I understand how people, certainly understand how people feel. As a board, and as the interim board chair, I just ask for that. In terms of whether people respect or not, all of us, as you know.
I'm talking about principles.
Yeah, all of us,
Kapita.
we have principles. So
But would you be
just
willing
ask
to share those principles that you would use to either, to take people away from this list?
to take people away from this.
To deny the nominating committee's choice?
Is that what we stated we were doing, denying the nominating committee?
I said
We were
if
having
you,
that discussion.
I said you have 2 ways to go. You can accept them all, and I asked would that mean just these people plus some more or not? You answered that question. The second question I asked, if you choose not to accept them all, would you have principles that you will share with the community on what you're using to make those judgments?
The criteria.
Yes.
Yeah,
We've
that's all I'm
already-
saying.
Yeah.
We've already explained the criteria. that
I'm
we
not
used
talking
as
about
well.
criteria.
Well,
I'm talking about
Principles, yes.
decisions.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
but
we're gonna take 2 more questions from,
Nobody's
I see
answering that
one
question.
hand.
actually, Ms.
Your
Haskins,
answer
we've
is
answered
yes.
this multiple times.
I want to hear your principles Jamar? What are they? What principles will you use not to nominate people?
I'm not a board member, so I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, you were answering.
Okay, the lady in the back, that's a point.
Can you send it?
I'm done.
The deadline is, I know you have to discuss when you're going to have it. Can you commit to sending an email with your deadline for resignation and whatever goes around it by the end of the week? Can you give us?
You mean for the existing board member?
Yeah.
Yes, I can do that. Thank you.
So, could you identify yourself?
I'm Melissa
Melissa.
Diamond.
Thank you. All right, Roger.
Roger Kern. My understanding of the governance of boards is that when you have a governance committee, their principal job is to determine the bylaws. I think everybody can be satisfied knowing that you have a governance committee being formed.
Yes.
That governance committee, from what I'm hearing, the task of the governance committee will be to determine the bylaws of the organization going forward. How it will be as transparent as possible, how it can address some of the concerns that people have. So if there is a process in place, there is in fact going to be a governance committee, then the community's response needs to be, how can we participate in the governance committee? How can we witness that performance of the governance committee? How can we suggest bylaws for the organization that we think will make it a better running organization?
Sure.
So that all of us can contribute to trying to make it as transparent and the best organization possible. Because supposedly, all of our desire is for this to be an ongoing organization that meets the needs and concerns of this community. And so all I'm saying is, should that mean that the governance committee will accept our recommendations and just get information from us in general about things that we should do or recommend for making it the best functioning organization possible?
Yes, Roger, thank you. The priority had been, and the governance committee is very much a priority as well, but as you can see, someone pointed out volunteer time. Just about everybody here also has a full-time job. I'm not trying to put that on anything else, but the governance committee is still going to be assembled, it's going to meet, and to your point, just like anything else, we are going to ask for input. I think what has been pressing is getting together this other group. There's been resignations, there's also the financial stability of the organization, just things like that. But to your point, yes, that will happen. So I want to thank everyone. Yes.
I'd like to make a public comment in defense of the two staffers of the city on the board. Everybody on the board is volunteering their time and their talents. Nobody's getting paid for their board service, regardless of their day job. Their time here is volunteer. They could be elsewhere doing other things. And as somebody that's being appointed to a city post elsewhere, I respect the fact that outside of their day job, they come here in the evening, in the mornings, in the weekends, when their time is needed, and they provide their time and their talents to the board. And that should be respected and appreciated regardless of their day job.
And I didn't disrespect or not appreciate it, Jamar. I didn't disrespect or not appreciate. I
It just
made a
seemed
point.
dismissive. It seemed very dismissive.
No, it was not intended to be dismissive. It was just merely stating a fact of how to maintain the integrity of the board.
I get that.
Okay, we're wrapping up.
One more statement?
No, we're not taking any more comments.
Well, see,
What I
that's
would
an
like to add
example
is
of, you
we're
know,
all
why people
working.
feel cut out. It will take 2 seconds.
Ma'am, you've asked 3 or 4 questions.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
And
tonight,
this
we
is a
gave that
statement.
opportunity. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.